everyone. Today we want to explore traditions and systems, and most particularly to see when are they good. And the objective of this whole exercise is to raise questions in your mind about your traditions and your systems. Are you following them blindly, and are they actually good for you? So I shall hand over to Cosmo first
Okay.
to let her have her say on this.
So I think we human beings have systems and traditions definitely for a reason. I think it's a good thing to have because when people figure out something that would work out, a process, a way of approaching problems, if they pass it down as systems and traditions, the younger generations, the people in the future don't have to figure it all out again and don't have to go through the trials and errors that their ancestors had done. And also in the old times when education was not prevalent, and also when people just didn't have a way of pass down knowledge, having traditions, rituals, and things like that definitely help us survive as a society. Um, Again, it's learning from your ancestors, what people had learned before, without going through the process again. So I think that's why it's good, the systems and traditions. Of course, there are times that they are not really relevant anymore or like appropriate anymore. But I guess we'll explore that later. What do you think, Patty? What do you think?
Right. So, like you were saying, I think most of the systems and traditions and culture that we have came about for some reason. So, when they are good, is when they allow people to grow. I mean, I would
Yeah.
imagine that the reason it came into being is for the purposes that you said,
Mhm.
provide structure, to not have to reinvent the
Yeah.
wheel and all
Mhm.
that. So when they are good is when they fulfill that purpose, when they actually nourish people, they cause expansion, when they are constructive,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to when they are destructive.
Yeah.
And so if any system, tradition, belief, or culture causes someone's mind to expand or their
Yes.
life to expand,
Mhm.
that is a great system. Or it could be a great system put to great
Yeah.
use.
Yeah,
Because you
definitely.
could have systems that are implemented
I agree.
ill or not so
Exactly.
well.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's when I think systems are good, when they benefit us.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I completely agree with you guys. I think systems are really great for bringing efficiency into our lives
Mhm.
and helping us learn from, our ancestors' sort of trial and errors. And then, if we constantly have to learn the same thing over and over again, we have no time to go out and learn new things and sort of upgrade, level up. So I think systems in that sense are really good. But then when we forget that systems are there to make life easier and we just do it for the sake of doing it because
Mhm.
it's a tradition,
Mhm.
and when we start to attach uh, things like, oh, if you don't do this then you're a bad person, or this is the only way to go, then that's when it becomes very destructive.
Right.
When we forget the real reason or meaning behind our systems
Right.
and traditions.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, like there's this experiment. I'm sure you guys had heard about it of like monkeys. Like I think they create a button that's next to like put some food somewhere. But
Right.
before that, it's basically a zapper. So if you try to reach the food, you get zapped and you get punished for it.
Yeah.
And then so the monkeys like try to get the food and then get punished. And then
Yeah.
over time, they remember that not to do that
Not to do
because
that.
they're not going to succeed. They're just going to get feel pain. And then they actually like started to teach other monkeys to do the same thing too. When other monkeys try to reach for the food, they pull them back. And then it's like eventually the kind of like I don't know what they call it,
Zapper was
zapper
removed, yeah.
was removed. And one monkey tried to like reach for the food, but he was beaten up by the other monkeys,
No.
just to warn him not to do that.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
actually a very telling story of tradition. Like
Yeah.
it was there for a reason. Though it worked and it made sense for a time and
Yes.
an environment. But when it stopped being relevant, sometimes tradition is so strong in society
Yes.
that you're actually taught by other people to do things that you could do now, but
Yes.
you know, you can do it
What a
before.
great example.
The stimulus has been removed, but the behavior still
Yeah,
remains,
yeah.
even though it's not
Yes.
relevant or it's not appropriate.
Yes.
Uh, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And the reason it remains is because the system and tradition has become rigid, kind of
Exactly.
ossified,
Yes.
carved in stone.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's a good instance
Yeah.
when it is not good,
Mhm.
when people have
Yeah.
not questioned,
Exactly.
when they haven't examined it for its benefits.
Mhm.
Yeah,
as we were
exactly. That is such a great example, Cosmo, because I think sometimes people sort of try to limit others too because
Mhm.
you know it worked for us and we want the best for you, so why
Right.
aren't you listening to us?
Mhm.
That kind of logic works there, right?
Right.
That is really good. It can be very limiting, and I think we can see that a lot in things that are going on today.
Right.
You know, how we just want to hold on to ideas of, for example, the whole immigration situation
Mhm.
too. You know, we are so used to this one way of living,
Yes.
Mhm.
and we don't want to change it. So we're pushing so hard. We're actually we can welcome talent and actually sort of create a new society
Yeah.
together, and
Mhm.
you know, maybe go up
Yes.
higher
up-
together.
Yeah.
Mm.
Upgrade, like you
Yeah.
said.
Mm. And more importantly, examine the system that
Mhm.
holds that structure in place. So the structure of borders, and the
Mhm.
structure
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Mhm.
wealth distribution,
true.
because these are all the systems
Exactly.
that contribute
Very true.
into that
Yeah, exactly.
whole
How
other ecosystem.
right? How did these things come to be? They were there to protect us, but protect
Right.
us from what?
Right.
Right.
Maybe things have changed already.
Exactly.
Yes.
People have. I don't know if everybody has, you know, reached enlightenment. Of course, I think we have come to an age where we have so much information
Right.
and maybe a little bit of awareness, more awareness
Mhm.
than before.
I can only hope.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so and actually that's a great point. Like you were saying earlier, the intention, the original intention behind the system, if that is illuminated or even
Yeah.
thought about or even questioned, that gives us an idea
Mm.
Right.
how to proceed, whether to continue
Yes.
with that.
Right.
Yeah, and you were saying, I think, that if the intention is lost, then the system itself starts to lose
Exactly.
its meaning.
It's,
yes.
Yeah, its
Mm.
meaning, its integrity.
Yes.
I think
Mm.
intentions are usually good, you know, they're there to
Mm.
bring about good
Right.
things.
Right.
But, well, hopefully.
Yes.
I think you bring out a very good example of immigration, like refugees in this day and age.
yeah.
Because, like, I think a lot of people resist it or like get very repulsed by it. It's because of the tradition of borders and nations.
Yeah, yes.
And that tradition is actually relatively new because nationalism came by in the 17th, 18th
Mm.
century. It's
Mm.
only a few
Yeah.
100 years old, but it's entrenched in our day of life,
Yeah.
in our lives.
Very true.
And right now, when people think about refugees and immigration, they're like, oh, they're invading our borders,
Yeah.
they're taking our jobs and things like that. But we actually live in a very, very different world than from like
Yeah.
200-300 years ago. We live in a very globalized
Mm.
world.
Yeah.
Yes, and everything's flat. That we have the internet. We share the same vision and knowledge.
Exactly.
As human beings, we don't necessarily have to adhere to or think everything in terms of ethnicity, nations, borders, and things like that. A lot of the things that actually happen internationally.
Yeah.
If that's
And
an
people
ever-
go out of their way to, you know, go to other countries and gain new
Exactly.
experiences. And we live in such a global world that allows us to
Exactly.
do
Mm.
that.
Exactly.
So just because someone is sort of pushed to do it because of their circumstances
Mhm.
doesn't make it any, you know, less good of a thing.
Right. Yeah, and then I feel like sometimes we forget that we benefit from globalization.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think a lot of people in the developed country or so-called developed country, they enjoy like globalization, cheap
Yeah.
goods, like
Yeah,
prevalence
Very
of
true.
like information and things like that. but then they don't want to have like the other side effects, and that's a little bit, shall I say, hypocritical, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, you know, if you enjoy part of it and you want to reject the other part
Yeah.
of it, you're just picking the best part, and
That's true.
you know, yeah, I don't know if we're like really thinking this through.
Right, right. Well, to bring it back down to the systems then that gave rise to that, I think when systems are good, it eliminates the possibility of that sort of thing happening, right? Like for me, if there is ever unfairness, I look at the system, because then the
Yeah.
system has created that atmosphere and that ambience where unfairness
Yeah.
can exist, where it can create haves and have-nots.
That's true.
So actually, in that sense, the entire global political and economic systems, I should say, could bear re-examination, right?
Yeah.
Because this is what we are seeing rife in our world today, and people complain and people blame.
Yeah.
You know, what have you? There's
Yeah.
no,
Yes.
there's no shortage of blame going around.
Right, of course.
But in fact, it's us, right? Like we were saying earlier, we are all culpable because, in some way, shape, or form, when we buy into a system, we are endorsing it, right?
Definitely.
Giving it
and-
power.
Yeah, giving
Yeah.
it power. We think we can't do anything, but actually we are encouraging it.
Yes, because insofar as we live in the system, we perpetuate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, that is the reason we are doing this. So to just throw things out there, to have people think
Yeah.
exactly how are we
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you contributing to this sorry state of affairs.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like to ask you guys about, like, when you think about tradition, I think that it's a very localized thing. It's like a lot of traditions are good because of where, in Asian terms, where you live, the weather,
Yeah.
the people, the resources you have. So you have different traditions. Like, I heard a theory that, for example, in India, you developed wonderful vegetarian tradition because maybe there are a lot of people and not a lot of resources in
Yeah.
vegetarianism. It's actually very good for the whole society in general. And like for thousands of years, you developed a cuisine that with balanced diet,
Yeah.
balanced nutrition, using just veggies. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. That's a tradition we all enjoy
Exactly.
right now. I love going to
Yeah.
Indian restaurants and
Very,
eating Indian
very
food.
true. Oh yeah.
That's
That's the best of traditions.
yes, that's
Yes,
that's
that is
tradition.
good.
Really, really.
Yeah.
And it's because it's born out of the particular, like, maybe situation in India.
Yeah.
And I think I find it very interesting. Like, I think with systems, it's the same thing. Like, I find that at work, in like corporation and stuff like that, system really works when it's flexible and it's adapted to different teams and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
can't have one system for
Exactly,
everything.
for everything.
You run into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice to be aware of how temporal a system could
Yeah.
be, and it should be localized. It should be adaptive
That's a
rather than
very-
universal.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Mm.
Because every, say, team or country, or they have different resources and different goals sometimes.
Yeah.
And you can't be rigid about your systems.
Mhm.
That's very, very true.
Mm.
But I think people just don't like change, and they try to
Exactly.
fight off change as much as they can.
Yeah.
Because people, or even us, sometimes we'd rather be in misery than face
Right.
what change will bring,
Right.
And we
Mm.
shouldn't be, but we're just so happy with our comfort zone, and we should try to step out of it. We should challenge it.
Challenge.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very good point, because that whole thing about challenging is a challenging concept,
Yes.
apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
Like,
point.
people seem to not want to question.
Yes,
They would
exactly.
rather
Mm.
curse and swear and
Yeah.
blame and
And
complain
complain.
than really think actually what is going on.
Yes.
Actually, why has something like this come about?
Yeah.
Why is there global conflict?
Exactly.
It's can it be like greed and evil? And yes,
Yeah.
but the fact that greed and evil can prosper
Right.
is a systemic problem.
Yes.
And I think that addresses, what we are
Yeah.
trying to talk
Yes.
about here. When is it good? When is it bad? And really, what can we do about
Yeah.
it?
Right.
Because this is really fundamental, I think, to all the hassles that we face, because humans perforce prefer to live under some kind of structure or some
Mhm.
kind of, and that's great when the structures themselves are grounded,
Right.
Yeah.
nourishing everything that we said in the beginning about how
Yes.
systems can be good. And it's absolutely terrible when they are not,
Right.
because
Yeah,
the
that's
flip
true.
side of good systems is horror and
Yes.
atrocity.
Yes. Corruption.
So-
yes.
Yes.
So Penny, what you're saying is that people need to question things more, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But don't you think we're always discouraged to do that, discouraged to question
Uh-huh.
things from a very young age? Kids are so curious and
Yeah,
they're always asking,
yeah.
why is this blue and
Yeah.
what's going on? And
It's the whole monkey thing.
yeah, exactly. And we just want them to like not question, just listen because we know best, right?
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to encourage curiosity. And sure, it's annoying at times to answer so many questions, but it also helps you become aware of things that you would not notice that someone else might question.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to encourage that more in our
Exactly.
kids, friends, family, whoever we come across,
Mm.
we can make sort of that environment
Right.
where we can question things and have healthy debates and discussions and
Mm.
stuff.
Go ahead.
No, I wanted to say I like that when you talk about monkey, you just pointed at me. Just kidding. Yeah, go ahead.
Did I point? What I was going to say is that yes, we have to encourage questioning and challenging. However, I wanted, even though I myself said, challenging is challenging,
Yeah.
but people should do it anyway.
Right.
But there's a caveat to that, because if people challenge the wrong things,
Yeah.
then you have a whole other set of problems.
Mhm.
So this is like a point of consciousness,
Mhm.
a point of awareness of your own truth, and an awareness of the truth and of the reality of what is going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because are there many people who want to change systems and traditions? Yes, there are a
Yes.
whole lot of reformers out there and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
True.
But if they are reforming the wrong thing, like
Yeah.
the symptom rather than the root,
Exactly.
we've got more problems. right?
Yes.
That's true.
So
I think I like to play the devil's advocate a little bit here, like to think about the psychology of people wanting to retain traditions so much. I think part of it's because people want, we as human beings, individuals, we want to belong to something really bigger,
Mhm.
and we want to be part of a whole, and we want to be proud about that.
Yeah.
We feel protected. We feel like we are connected to a whole system.
Sense
So
of
we're
community.
empowered, a
Yeah.
sense of community. So it's understandable that they don't want to just throw it away, that the
Yes.
tradition. Like I remember when I started being vegetarian, my parents were really upset. It's like I can feel that I'm like revolting against their own tradition.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they feel like personally like being attacked, like their values and tradition being betrayed a little bit by
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Of course, they got used to it now, but I can understand their point of view because they came from somewhere. It's something bigger than them. It's like a whole line of heritage, but then things change and you don't retain that anymore.
Mhm.
Like my dad is horrified. Like as Chinese, we go to the mountains to pay respect to
Right.
our ancestors.
Yeah.
But we don't like to do that. Me and my brother, we
Mm.
don't like to do that so much. But that is so sad because, like, he's like, when I'm not here anymore, would you still be doing
Yeah.
that?
Oh.
So that kind of change, like, do feel very
Yeah.
very scary, and I understand why people kind of
That's
want to
true.
retain it. Like, I think the tricky part is how do you retain the best part of tradition,
Mhm.
understand it. Like even though things, life is changing every day, and then at the same time challenge the bad part of it. I think that's
Yeah.
a tricky balance.
Yes, But that is a very critical balance.
Mm-hmm.
And which is why we did this topic
Yeah.
of when are traditions and systems
Mhm.
good, because like we all said
Yeah.
in the beginning, when they are beneficial, when they are
Yes.
nourishing, when they represent something that, you know, from ancient times was decreed as the
Yes.
best thing,
Exactly.
when it doesn't make us reinvent the wheel,
Yeah.
when the intentions so you know,
Good, yes.
We need to be aware of how is it working for us, what is working for
Right.
us, what's not working for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to. I think self-awareness is very important
oh,
in that sense.
critical. Mm.
Yeah, so we need to know, oh, this thing makes me feel a certain way. Is it good? Is it bad?
Mm.
Instead of just going with the flow and blaming something,
Yes.
Mhm.
external things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And the brilliant thing with that is because if you can be self-aware, like you're very sure you want to do
Yeah.
vegetarianism, right?
Yeah.
So then that gives you the strength of conviction
Exactly.
to overcome
Right.
that challenging part
Yeah.
of
Right.
questioning, of doing something
Very
different.
true. Good point. That
Yeah.
when you're so sure of something,
Mm-hmm.
then you have all the right reasons to give to whoever wants to know why
Mhm.
you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point.
So shall we think of like the three principles that we
Sure.
would like to highlight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So who wants to go first?
I think to summarize, I think first of all, I think we all said that we need to be more aware of the tradition.
Yeah.
Once we are aware of it and aware of like the reasons that they came by, then you can actually identify the good parts
Yeah.
of tradition and the bad parts. For the good parts, like you probably want to retain it,
Yeah.
and so that we remain this like part of a community that we could actually tap into the system, tap into the community, and be a part of it and maybe contribute to it. But identify also the bad part of it so that we can challenge it as well, so that we don't run into a situation where a tradition doesn't make sense anymore, it's not relevant anymore, but we're still adhering to it just because.
Yeah,
right?
because
Yeah.
exactly.
So
There's no
brilliant.
driving force behind
Exactly.
So basically heightened awareness
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
on
That's
what you're doing and why you're doing it.
exactly. Do you think like we can communicate with each other more about this too? Like talk more about tradition and their
Yeah.
impact on us in modern
Mhm.
society?
Like
That
taking
probably
specific
helps, too.
examples.
Yeah, exactly. And that reminds me, I think in the wellness community nowadays, because of globalization, we're learning about, say, Chinese medicine,
Mm.
and then, traditional herbal things from
homeo.
all, yeah,
yes.
exactly, everywhere. And I think that's such a good thing where we're bringing traditions of other cultures and
Oh.
things into our own, and we're
Integrated.
we're integrating, we're truly making use of tradition for
Right.
our wellness, our health, and spirituality too.
Yeah.
So
That's wonderful points. Like modernizing tradition, like not just
exactly.
following it
Yeah, and
blindly.
sharing it with everyone so we get new perspective on our own traditions.
Exactly.
It's a bit like traveling. When you go away to a new place and then you come back home, you have a new perspective on not the new place but also your home.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
great
Fresh.
points.
Refreshed.
Refreshed.
Right. It refreshed.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Upgraded.
For me, I think the term key of traditions, good or bad, is really expansion. Does it make you
Yeah.
a bigger person?
Mhm.
Does it make you more you,
Exactly.
more human, more, open, more?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is the highest principle of any system, tradition, or
Mhm.
belief
That
for
is
me.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Mhm.
true. I think to add on to like awareness and expansion, I think, well, I am very big on creating systems. As much as I do think systems are so good when they're applied well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to encourage, questioning of our systems, I think we need to have some kind of questions to like guide us in that
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
So I think first of all we need to know the intention behind it. Very
Yes.
true. And then after that, we need to be aware of what is working for us and what is not working for us. And then the third step could be, how can we change this, you know?
Mhm.
And sort of having new perspective on things.
Right.
And I think that brings together everything.
Yes, definitely. And I really like your closing remark that we don't necessarily have to like overflow tradition.
Yeah.
Yes, we can evolve it.
Exactly.
It's like adapt it to like modern day and time. And like not only we can retain tradition, we can
Yeah.
improve upon it too.
Exactly.
Yes.
So great. On the matter of the how, which you just mentioned, so let's come up with 3 possible courses of action. And just one each. Say what would be, so the question would be, what would be a good step towards refreshing
Mm-hmm.
our own personal systems,
Our own
traditions?
personal systems.
Mm-hmm.
I think to truly appreciate tradition, we sometimes need to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we can actually know what is working well and what's not working.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think we need that
Distance.
break,
Oh,
yes.
and break
Good
from
point.
tradition.
Mm.
And I think sometimes in our lives you can do that. Traveling, of course, is great, but in just small little things, just change up your routine and do things differently and see what's working.
Yes.
And sometimes step into another person's shoes
Mm-hmm.
and try to understand why they are saying things
Yes.
that they are saying.
Yes.
I
So
think
kind of suspend
exactly.
Yeah.
our own stuff.
Yes.
Yes. And about like the good and bad of tradition, I think it deserves a lot of discussions in the community that you are having the tradition with.
Yeah.
A lot of the times traditions become taboos
Mm.
if you don't talk about them.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
so having an open discussion like, oh, why do we have tradition like that? What was the original intention? How do we make it relevant to the modern days?
Yes.
It's very important. I think one more thing is that I come from like a software engineering background. We have something called a retrospective at the end of like a cycle.
Yes.
So just like regularly reviewing,
Mm.
having a
Yes.
review of the system
Exactly.
would help a lot.
That's a priceless tool to
Yes.
be able to reflect and review.
Yes.
Excellent. So actually, this is a really good sequence, because first suspend your own thinking, because then you
Yeah.
can't have an objective discussion, right? If you're
Yes.
really
Exactly.
gung ho
For
about
sure.
your own stuff.
Yeah.
And then my action step would follow on that by taking small steps to change.
Yes.
And the lodestone of your small steps would be what would be true for you.
Yes.
So release what is untrue and then take what is true.
Mm-hmm.
And then between that suspension, discussion, and true steps,
Yeah.
we should have that evolution.
Right. All right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Very good.
are we done?
Yes.
We're
Oh.
done.
Hi, my name is Cosmo, and I'm a user experience designer. I like to use design thinking to promote social good, and I think conversations like this is a great way to start rethinking our world. That's why I'm doing this.
Hello, my name is Gazala. I'm a big believer in providing people with the right tools to expand their perspective. I'm doing this to bring awareness to us collectively.
Hi, my name is Penny, and I really think the conversations that we have with each other in this world could do with a major upgrade. So that's the reason I'm doing this.